It's the Score North Twin Show.
It's a State of the Twins Monday here on the Score North Twin Show. Second half of the season in full effect. Brewers fans took over Minneapolis and Target Field.
Oh my God. It was great.
In their cargo shorts
It was
and
cool.
jerseys.
Great atmosphere.
Yeah. So was that
so
a record crowd, a Target Field record
Yep.
crowd on Saturday?
Saturday. Mm-hmm.
Yep.
The biggest
41,000.
non-playoff game in Target Field history.
Wow. So 41,000 people packed to the top of the third row.
It was
Brewers
cool.
fans in their beige cargo shorts and their Christian Yelich and Jeff Jenkins jerseys that they can't let go.
I tweeted out that so you can actually go on my Twitter account at Jay's Olgad and hear it, like the "Let's Go Brewers" chants. It was incredible.
You know, when I went to Cleveland like 2 months ago to cover that Twins Guardians series, I thought the Guardians fans, and I'm just going to really generalize here, the male Guardians fans had a certain look to them. There was just this look that it was kind of unquantifiable until you see it. Brewers fans and Guardians fans have a look to them.
Is it the same look?
It's a similar same look, build, style,
A little
face.
unkept,
Yeah.
a little hungover.
Yep.
It's the Wisconsin
Passionate fan base. I'm not knocking the passion. I'm just saying
It's a Wisconsin thing, dude.
The presentation
Yeah,
is a very unique
The
presentation.
same guy just cloned.
as
Yeah.
a guy who spent 2 years in Green Bay covering the Packers, it's the Wisconsin look. The only interesting thing is I would say the one city that doesn't have it is Madison. It's a very different, like, it's weird.
Yeah.
Madison is this sort of like progressive college town that's been plopped into Wisconsin and it doesn't belong there. But the rest of Wisconsin,
Yeah, they look like wimps in Madison. If I'm looking for someone to save me in a bar fight, am I going to grab?
But what I'm saying is
the Metro from Madison, Judd, or am I going to grab the 280 pound?
Oh, you're going to grab the Green Bay guy,
neckbeard guy with the cargo shorts, man.
Oh yeah, I know. You are going to grab the Wausau guy in a heartbeat. But they are great. The only thing is, they should just, at least in that state, just bring back the mullet full time. Every one of those guys that Declan is talking about should just have a mullet.
Yeah, you're thinking about the mullet. Why don't you just unleash the mullet?
I mean, yeah,
Just
it's
do it.
A mullet makes so much sense for them.
So let's get into our State of the Twins discussion here, presented in part by Element Hotel. If you're a Brewers fan, maybe coming back to town for the World Series in a few months, or you're just looking to catch a Twins game from out of town, Element Hotel, steps from the ballpark, Dex.
Hey, Phillies are in town, so I'm guessing there's some Philly fans staying just down the street at the Element Hotel. It's a great spot. It's got free Wi-Fi. It's pet-friendly. There's a 24-hour fitness center in there as well. You can go to scorenorth.com/element to get 15% off your booking. That's scorenorth.com/element for 15% off. Go stay at the Element Hotel just steps away from Target Field.
Twins record. Let's go through the overview, and then we'll get to the questions. 54-44. Second place in the American League Central, just 5 games out from behind Cleveland. Twins are 6th in runs scored per game in all of baseball, but they're 18th in runs allowed per game in all of baseball. They have a 64% chance to make the playoffs, according to Baseball Reference, and a 3% chance to win the whole bleeping thing. Declan, fill in the blank here. Declan is our resident Twins beat podcaster. Twins vibes are blank right now.
Twins vibes are fragile. I'm going to use the word fragile. So both those games, and Judd and I did a little extra innings pod yesterday, both those games were winnable games, but also at the same time, the Twins kind of shot themselves in the foot with some dumb baseball plays that really, I think, kind of cost them in that game. I wouldn't look at those two games as bad luck losses. I think you kind of hard luck or earned your way into both those losses. And now you have the Phillies come to town, maybe the best team in baseball for 3 games. You're without Carlos Correa, who had a PRP injection over the weekend, was in a walking boot at one point. Royce Lewis is nearing a return. I would envision actually a rehab assignment being assigned to him in the coming days. Jose Miranda's still on the shelf. You're without a legit starting pitcher option. You don't know who's starting on Wednesday. I think the vibes are a little fragile. I'm not saying that they're about to fall through the entire ice and drown themselves out of a playoff spot, but I do think the vibes with the injuries and with what we saw against good teams continuing to be a problem. I believe 14 straight losses against teams such as the Guardians, the Yankees, the Brewers, some of the best teams in baseball. The Twins have a very tough time beating the best teams. I think the vibes are just a little fragile right now. There's a couple cracks in the armor.
Judd?
Twins vibes are not ready for prime time. Playing off what Declan just said. So this was in the Star Tribune this morning. There are only 6 teams in baseball that own a better record than the aforementioned Twins' 55-44 mark. The Twins have played 5 of them. The 6th, of course, is going to be the Phillies, who they're going to play tonight, and I will get to what they're going to face because that's incredible. But the Twins have played 5 of them. They've lost, Declan is correct, 14 in a row. Probably just as importantly, they are 2-19 against those teams.
That's wild.
They have been outscored 118-60. That's not bad luck. And in those 21 games as a team, the Twins are hitting 185. This is not a fluke. This is not you ran into the Yankees and you just can't beat them, but everybody else you can beat. This is a not ready for primetime group. And unfortunately, because there's a lot of teams that probably just aren't as good as the Twins, which is weird to say after what I just read, what you're seeing is they can handle those bad teams. And the one thing I will say is the timing for this 5-game series, if Correa was going to miss a period, which I'm on board with, but if he was going to miss a period, it could have been against when you're going, hey, it's the White Sox and A's, right? Like, Dex can talk about this, Phil, but there were multiple occasions where one of us, when a play was not made, would elbow the other in the press box and say, Correa makes that play. But anyway, they are not ready for prime time.
Well, I would follow because I'll give you my vibe check here in a second too, but it's hard to say that these 2 games against the Brewers are just put on the same pile. Like, you're playing these games without your 2 best players, which are Carlos Correa and Royce Lewis. How many of those, I'm putting you guys on the spot, but of those 21 games, they're 2-19 against the best teams in baseball. How many of those games did Royce Lewis play in? He played in some of the Yankees games, right? Like the 3. Mm-hmm. He hit a home run at Yankee Stadium or 2.
Stadium.
Yep.
Was he playing in Cleveland when you were in Cleveland?
No.
So it's.
But he's been unreliable. I mean, to me, the Correa thing is much more of a real discussion because that dude had been an Iron Man for this year and was an all-star.
But let's not act like they're taking their full team to play the best teams in baseball. When they have their full team, they're not 2-19.
Right.
I'm not saying they're 19-2, but
Royce is also, until he can consistently stay on the field, as far as I'm concerned, he's a theory. Like Carlos Correa was a real thing.
Couple things. On the Brewers games, and Judd and I again talked about this yesterday in extra innings, those 2 games were winnable by the Twins. The 6 games against the Yankees, they didn't stand a shot in hell. It was literally old school Twins-Yankees rivalry to a T.
Yeah.
When they went to Cleveland when I was there was, I believe, the Saturday game, in my opinion, or it was the Sunday game. I forget which one. That one was winnable, but in 2 of 3, you lost both those games, in my opinion, pretty handedly, or just it felt like Cleveland was in control for most of them. The Milwaukee games, those were 2 winnable games that you weren't blown out. You weren't getting bad luck, things happening to you. They just didn't go your way. And I had a conversation, this was like back in maybe early mid-May, or maybe even right after the slump, like 7-13, and I had a conversation with Royce Lewis because Royce was saying how it's hard for really people to say we're not a good team yet because I haven't been able to be on the field. This was at the point Carlos Correa went on the IL with his first injury. It's hard when 2 of our best players, basically, 2 of the kind of good, the best players in the lineup aren't in there for you. So I know what Phil's saying, and I will say yesterday, those 2 games, and Saturday, Sunday, were winnable games. They weren't getting blown out in them. But it is also, you also have to figure out that Willie Castro's playing shortstop for you, and Carlos Correa is obviously going to be able to make up some of those plays. So, yeah, it is a little bit of both.
So with all of that said, for me, Twins vibes are in need of a trade this week. We're a week away, just a week plus away from the trade deadline. And even if you put Correa and Royce Lewis back in this thing, when you're playing the best teams in baseball, do you really feel like your rotation is filled out enough? Like there's some things we know for sure about this team. We know they're a good team. We know that for sure. But we know they also have a hole or 2 in their rotation that just has you praying for something like once or twice a week. And I think we know at this point that their bullpen only goes so far in terms of reliable back end guys. Once you get past like Duran, Jax, Alcala,
That's it.
Yeah, I mean Brock Stewart at some point might belong to that group, but we kind of know that the Twins and there's a reason why the Twins are 18th in runs allowed, and it's not necessarily bad defense. It's just they don't have great depth of pitching, and hopefully they address it at some point in the next week. Okay, next category. Your favorite current Twins thing, Dex, even though they just lost 2 games.
That's right. My favorite current Twins thing, and I feel like I've been probably the hardest on this guy going into the season and maybe even throughout the majority of the season. But my favorite thing right now is Byron Buxton. So we've been kind of waiting for, is this just a hot streak with Buck? Is he eventually going to cool off and have a rough spot here? Over the last 30 games, so you go back to when the Twins started a 3-game series in Pittsburgh, which overall that didn't go well for the Twins. But in those 30 games since, Buck is slashing .364, .413, a .700 slugging percentage. Wow. That's an OPS well over 1,000, 8 home runs, 24 RBI. He did have a little bit of an elbow issue that caused him some problems in San Francisco before the break. Sounds like that elbow issue is now good. Thank goodness they had 4 to 5 days off and he was able to rest and not have to play. That also helped him get ready to have a big series this last weekend against Milwaukee. He had 2 home runs yesterday. Byron Buxton is looking damn good. He's obviously an incredible fielder, and his value is playing center field. And they clearly, I think, are just going to ride the gas tank until the gas tank gets on E and they can't refill it for whatever reason because something else goes wrong in the damn car. But for right now, over the last 30 games, Byron Buxton looks the part, and he's been incredible at the plate.
Yeah, it's really cool to see. And right now, among Twins position players, he's second behind Carlos Correa in wins above replacement. He's on pace for like a 4 wins above replacement, maybe 4.5 WAR season, which is, and then if you look at just like the overall lineup, OPS plus, which is OPS relative to league average, he's currently 4th, but the other 3 guys on the team above him are on the injured list right now. In order, the Twins' best OPS pluses are Royce Lewis, number 1, Carlos Correa, number 2, Jose Miranda, number 3. All those guys are on the shelf, so keep that in mind as they play the Phillies. And then there's Buxton. Buxton is the highest active OPS plus on the team right now after being awful for the first month and a half offensively. He's back, man.
Yeah, and he makes, I mean, much like Correa at shortstop, how many plays does he make in center that we just take for granted?
Just coast under a fly ball.
He just glides he glides like that. And it's not just like speed. It's also, I think, instinctual, but you know, that's a tough position to play. And he makes it look really easy.
Yep. Judd, your favorite current Twins thing?
That would be Brooks Lee at third base, which I think might be a long-term solution. Brooks Lee makes, as far as I can tell, every single play. He comes in on the ball. The Brewers play small ball, which in 2024 is like, what? But the Brewers like to bunt, and Brooks Lee handles bunts like they're nothing. He comes in, great arm. He made a play at the third base yesterday. Nice play with the glove. Absolute rocket. He's got a shortstop's arm. There's a reason why his father was very smart, his parents, and gave him the first name Brooks after, of course, legendary Orioles third baseman Brooks Robinson. This guy, I don't know if it happens, and Dex and I discussed this, and I actually asked Baldelli about this postgame. I don't think it happens this year. I think when Royce comes back, he goes back to third. But what if when the Twins go to spring training next March, and let's just say Royce is healthy, what if it's Brooks Lee at third, Correa at short? I don't know if Royce is a second baseman, first baseman, outfielder, but I could see Brooks Lee being the answer at third base here for a long time. And I think if we ask Plouffe about this on Trevor Tuesdays tomorrow, I'd be curious because Plouffe's the one that suggested that Royce's throwing mechanics from third weren't great. I don't think Brooks Lee has any drawbacks at third base.
He looks the part of an everyday third baseman. I mean, his build looks like a third baseman. He has the natural feel there. The conundrum I think the Twins are going to run into here is Brooks Lee can play second base. As of right now, Royce Lewis can't play second base.
Right.
So Does this also mean, though, when Royce comes back, are we potentially going to see actually more DH days for Royce Lewis? But then, again, the trickle-down effect of that is, all right, so Trevor Larnach still is dealing with a turf toe, and he's still DHing more than he's playing the field. So, yes, roster crunches tend to work themselves out when injuries happen, and it just makes life easier. But, man, when they get this team at full strength, it is interesting to kind of piecemeal where you put each guy.
Well, can you get... Here's my question, because I'm inclined to agree that they're not going to try to move Royce to second base this season. Could this be a winter project, though? Like, he's a good enough athlete to move there. And you don't have to...
I almost feel like athletically, he profiles more as a third baseman, though, doesn't he? He's like, he probably does. Big guy.
But then here's the question. Could he profile as a first baseman?
But then you're taking I'm going to push back at that, because if you're going to go from being a shortstop to a first baseman all within like 2 years, you're taking so much value out of your organization. Like, if you have guys that can hit like that at positions of third base, second base, shortstop, you don't move them off unless it's a train wreck.
Yeah. And I also feel and I'm not saying that Judd is suggesting you just throw anyone there, because we've seen some slappies here at first base. The Twins organization, especially Rocco, I'm not even going to organization. Rocco values instinctual first baseman defensively, which is why Carlos Santana was also a big part of sticking around here. They kept with him because he's a damn good first baseman. It's why they opted to get C.J. Cron 5 years ago, because he instinctually is a very good defensive first baseman. When you're playing Donovan Solano and Luis Arraez just because their bats have to play, and you put them at a position where you just say, hey, stick them there, you'll be all right. Yeah. It can be disastrous. But outfield is an interesting one, especially maybe right field if there's a vacancy, if Max Kepler is gone after this year. Yeah. It's interesting.
But I'm not doing any of this year. Mm-hmm. I just think I've seen enough of Brooks Lee to say long term, I think I'd move Royce off third before I move Brooks to second base.
These are amazing problems to have, and we haven't even talked much about, like, Julian is back with the big league club and has made strides defensively.
And this starts with one thing: Royce has to stay healthy.
Yep, he can force a lot of different, decisions and good problems. Okay, my favorite current Twins thing: the ballpark vibes right now, and I'll be at the game tonight here, and just like the attendance. The weekend attendance the last month, and maybe some of it's that people can't watch games on TV on the weekend, so they come to the ballpark. Some of it's like Brewers fans coming to town. But if you look at the last small handful of weekend series, they're bringing in like 30, 35, 40,000 fans for these Saturday games in particular, and Sunday attendance is good too. So going back to that Houston series, early part of July, I mean, they were averaging about 30,000 per game there. So the life is back in that ballpark here in the second half of the season. Making a trade here, even just a badass reliever or one of these starters we're talking about, Nathan Eovaldi, like, pay your fans back here is what I would say. Fans are coming to the ballpark. Fans are showing support, and they're buying beer, they're buying concessions. It's just people are looking to ride a wave here. They're looking to ride a wave.
They took all our beer.
Yeah. I think they've had plenty.
They did okay. They did a number. They did a number on the concession stands. Good for them. Proud of them. But yeah, it's a fun vibe there. This last month has been really good because it's been a slow burn. I mean, overall their attendance is still down. It's not great. Over the last month, it's been better, but we'll see what the vibe is with the Phillies here in town for 3 here too.
It's fun when you play good teams as well. Like, it's competitive because the Twins aren't a bad team. So like, the Brewers games were fun, competitive as hell, and the way that the Brewers play is fun too. The small ball thing, the bunting, they run, they find ways to beat you. But I think the problem is when, like, an Oakland comes to town, right? It's sort of like, okay, the Twins are probably going to win, but it's not that much fun to watch. These games against competitive teams are fun to watch.
That Cleveland series, which is now going to be a 4-game series in 2 weeks with the doubleheader, I think, on Friday.
Absolutely.
At Target Field, that's going to be, I mean, that might be for the division in some ways. I mean, there's still going to be like a month and a half left in the season. Okay, before we get to the next category, let's get to Red Cow. If you haven't been to a Red Cow yet, 6 locations in Minnesota, 5 in the Twin Cities, 1 in Rochester, you are missing out on some of the best food in and around the state of Minnesota. Award-winning double barrel burgers, the 60-40 burgers, the snackable foods, even the cheese curds, chips and dip to die for, buffalo cauliflower, chicken sandwiches, 36 beers on tap, local brews, craft cocktails. You're probably salivating right now. You can also belly up to the bar where there's a line of TVs for the best sports viewing, watch your favorite baseball team, etc. Look at that. Look at that amazing B-roll of the cheese curd.
That looks delicious. God, that's good stuff.
And we've done a handful of the Purple Over Beers episodes on Purple Daily 2 from Red Cow and Uptown, so check those out. Red Cow, 6 locations in the 5 in the Twin Cities and 1 in Rochester. Okay, Dex, your least favorite current Twins thing?
Least favorite current Twins thing would be the starting pitching depth here. It is really getting tested. It's too bad when you get performances like you did from Pablo and Joe Ryan over the weekend, who maybe didn't have their A stuff, but certainly had enough for the offense to win them the game. They definitely put them in a position to win the game. And now Chris Paddock is going back on the injured list, which is really interesting. Bailey Ober's been great, or good, I should say. Simeon Woods-Richardson has exceeded expectations, but there's still the training wheels on him, and they're kind of waiting for the shoe to drop with him. They need one more starter. I envision the Twins are, at the very least, are going to be a playoff team, which means they're probably going to be a wild card team if they obviously don't catch Cleveland. And if they began a 3-game playoff series today, and man, if it's in the Bronx, I mean, you're already starting to sweat just because of your PTSD. But regardless of who it is, because you still have about 6-7 weeks of the season left, I don't feel comfortable with the current rotation that is there for a playoff series. You're getting Nathan Eovaldi, okay, bumps everyone down, makes life easier. Brock Stewart had another great rehab appearance. The velocity was there yesterday. He's going to get inserted in that bullpen. Now you have another good arm in that bullpen. But the starting pitching depth in general is a problem. I don't know who they'll start on Wednesday yet. We'll see who that is. But they need at least someone here. And I would like a frontline guy. And I'm not suggesting you go out and you trade for Skubal. That's not going to happen. You're not going to go get Garrett Crochet either from the White Sox. Both those guys are probably going to be 1 and 2 in terms of the pitching ads that teams are looking to buy this year. But can you find someone? Can you find at least someone to help you bridge the gap and get to the end of the year? And can you find someone that can maybe push you over the top and make your playoff lives a little easier by the time that starts in October?
Definitely. And if they don't, I don't know. Right now, if you're going to go into a series, let's just say first round in the Bronx, right? Best 2 or 3? I don't know, man. I'm really on edge then. Because do you start? I mean, I think right now you would start Ryan and then go Pablo, but you want to go Pablo, Ryan. If those guys are 2 and 3, I feel pretty good. If those guys are 1 and 2, I think you're done quickly. So I'm with you on this.
It's going to happen at some point. They will slay the dragon at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah, you probably need to make a trade.
Dave St. Peter. Okay. My least favorite thing about the Twins has to do with pitching as well, but not the Twins pitching. It is the matchups for the next 3 games against the Phillies. All right. So tonight, Monday. Now, this is not a problem, but Bailey Ober, a 4.14 ERA, goes for the Twins. Okay, that's okay. Ranger Suarez will go for the Phillies, 2.76. Okay. Whew, that game's done. Tomorrow night. Great story. Simeon Woods-Richardson, SWR, 3.51 ERA. All right, that's okay. Phillies, hey, here's some Zach Wheeler for you, 2.7. Here's some Zach Wheeler. Okay, let's get to the matinee on Wednesday. Getaway day, let's see what goes on there. TBA, because Paddock's out now, and I mean, it's not like I'd be like, oh, Chris Paddock is going to start against a guy with an inflated 3.54 ERA, Aaron Nola. You're about to face the teeth, the heart of a pitching staff of the best team in baseball. That's what I don't like for this week.
What's our, before we end this episode, we should just get like a quick Dex plan for this. Sure. If they could get like 1 win in Philadelphia, maybe we can map out beyond that. But I'm gonna go off the grid a little bit and say my current favorite Twins thing is that their number 1 prospect, Walker Jenkins, is destroying baseballs at its low A. He's playing for the Fort Myers Mighty Muscles, so he's got to climb up that ladder. But man, he's had a hit in every game dating back at least 3 weeks. In fact, he's only not had a hit in a game once since June 19th for Fort Myers. And so far on the season, mostly at Fort Myers, but then he had a few games in the Gulf Coast Rookie League, whatever that's called now. He's batting on the season now, 300 with a 436 on-base percentage. Now, the power hasn't really fully come around yet. He's also a 19-year-old playing professional baseball, and sometimes the power comes late. Right. He's only 2 home runs with 8 doubles. But just the good news is Walker Jenkins is their best prospect, and he's destroying the ball where he should be at low A right now.
Yeah, Zebby Matthews also made his Saints debut yesterday. Got a good report from him from down there that said, I mean, his control's insane. He set the Double-A record for strikeouts to walks. He barely walks anyone, and he looks the part too as a starter. I wouldn't be shocked at all if we're going to see him eventually just climb the ranks, continue to climb the ranks, and even make his big league debut before the season ends. So there's some interesting prospects here that are there. There was an interesting note on Twins Reddit. I have yet to verify this, but Emmanuel Rodriguez could be done for the season, which is a problem for number one, just because you don't want to see him hurt and you want to see him continue to develop, but also not to say he would be on the market for a trade, but that does take a poker chip away from you if you do want to buy by the deadline, which is a little interesting. So interesting stuff in the minor leagues.
Give us your Dex plan here before we say goodbye.
Yeah, let's just do these 6 games. So let's just do Monday because they're off Thursday. So we'll just do the 3 Philly, 3 Detroit, if that's okay.
Okay.
You good with that? Because then after that we'll have New York, Chicago, and I'd like to loop all those games together.
Okay, we're going to need a Dex plan then on Monday promptly next week before that Mets because they do play on Monday.
Pressure from the.
No, I can do that. That's no problem. That's no biggie. So 6 games in this Dex plan. Let's just go 3-3.
Oh, that's aggressively good.
Let's just go 3-3.
Yeah.
The Tigers have.
I agree totally. Just play some 500 baseball here for a week.
Mm-hmm.
Tigers lost on Sunday, but they've been playing great baseball. I don't think they trade Skubal, by the way. I don't think they're going to trade him. He's got control left. I think they'd be crazy to trade him. He's too good.
Yeah, they should be. I mean, the Tigers should just be in like keep good players and add some salary mode next year. I don't know, but hey, if they want to trade.
Rosenthal, Ken had a tweet today that there was a Tiger scout at the Orioles AAA games.
Oh, sneaky.
Yeah, which starts with Holiday.
Sneaky.
So, Trevor Plouffe threw that out. Trade Jackson Holiday.
Plouffe's all over this stuff. Plouffe he's the baseball king of reckless speculation.
The Plouffe News Network is the only one you need for trade deadline.
Reckless speculation.
Yeah, we'll get Coach Trev on tomorrow to recap his Cooperstown shenanigans with former Twins. The Joe Mauer, by the way, Joe Mauer. We'll do more on him tomorrow. Royce's coming back. He is in the Hall of Fame officially now. Saw that bust. So, all right, guys, we got to run here. Judd and I are going to Vikings training camp, and then you'll see Dex at the old ballpark for Phillies Twins this week on the Score North Twin Show YouTube channel, podcast feed. We'll see you guys.